Well, we're on to episode 17 of this season, and our next episode we're going to be going underwater, and it's not for Jaws, it's for something else involving a bunch of killer fish. And it seems like the slogan for this is Sea, Sex, and Blood. Wow, that's great.
Drop on by the Clown Cafe. Drop on by the Clown Cafe. The grub is downright gruesome, but your appetite's obey. 'Cause food's a little funny, food's a little funny, food's a little funny at the Clown Cafe. Drop on by the Clown Cafe, your favorite meals on wheels. The menu is disgusting and it's full of special deals. Nothing here is good for you, so grab yourself a tray. 'Cause food's a little funny at the Clown Cafe. Drop on by the Clown Cafe. Drop on by the Clown Cafe. Gobble up your order quick before it runs away. 'Cause food's a little funny at the Clown Cafe. Why not visit after school and have yourselves a bite? An appetizing appetizer certain to delight. We haven't done it right unless it makes your teeth decay. 'Cause food's a little funny at the Clown Cafe. Drop on by the Clown Cafe. Drop on by the Clown Cafe. The grub is downright gruesome, but your appetite's obey. 'Cause food's a little funny, food's a little funny, food's a little funny at the Clown Cafe.
Hey everyone, it's Don J. Corleone here, and I am here with episode 17 of Halloween Horror Review Season 4. And this episode is going to be for a horror remake that was one of the first horror films to be released in the 2010s. To kick off in the year 2010, which kicked off the 2010s decade. And it's during the time when 3D was really popular by the whole world. And so it's a 3D remake. And it's a remake of an underwater horror film. One of those sea monster films. And it's done by director of The Hills Have Eyes, Alexander Aja. That film is going to be for none other than 2010's Piranha 3D. So the plot of Piranha 3D is that after a sudden underwater earthquake that releases thousands of prehistoric extinct piranha species just in time for the craziest time of the year on the middle of the water's spring break. As the whole town of spring breakers go to party and get laid and get drunk at Lake Victoria, the piranhas are already there and they immediately begin an attack, and local police, friends, and family have to work together to stop the whole attack. So, what's the plot of it? How was this made? Well, when this was made, up-and-coming screenwriters that were Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger wrote a spec script entitled Killer Fish for producer J. Todd Harris, the rights owner hired for Piranha due to their limited credentials at the time. Harris was impressed with the script, and the duo was officially hired. In 2004, which went hot off the success of his film High Tension, which was his directorial debut, French director Alexander Aja was going to offer to direct the film. It was going to be called Piranha Lake Havasu. Aja admired the script, but wanted to tone down the script's comedic aspects in favor of more suspense and tension. By June 2005, Chuck Russell was scheduled to direct the film, and made heavy rewrites to the Stolberg and Goldfinger draft, as well as incorporating elements from the original John Sayles script that Joe Dante directed from the original 1978. And Chiller Films and Mark Cannon was slated to produce the film, while Dimension Films acquired the distribution rights in January 2006. And Russell's vision for the film, which would have costed an estimated $23 million, was described as this underwater thriller that was opposed to Stolberg and Goldfinger's draft, which literally took place during spring break. By December 2006, filming was planned to begin in spring 2007, and by March 2007, Aja circled back to the project as Russell would depart as director. Along with directing, Aja signed on to produce the film and rewrite the script of his filmmaking partner Gregory Levis's. Then when it comes to the casting in the movie, the cast would go on to be announced in April 2009. They convinced of Elizabeth Shue, Adam Scott, Ben Rames, and Richard Dreyfuss. Then the following month, other cast members like Jessica Stewart, Jerry O'Connell, and Christopher Lloyd joined the cast. And Dreyfuss, who at first was hesitant to make fun of his career, eventually agreed to do the film after getting a higher payment from the producers. Then, when it came to the production of the film was scheduled to begin in late 2008, but then it got delayed to March 2009. Then in October 2008, stated that filming was going to begin in the spring, and he stated that it was apparently this difficult movie, not because of the technicality and the CGI fish, but also because it was set in a lake. And they were going to start shooting it by then, but of course, the longer they had to leave it, the colder the water was going to get. And the movie takes place during spring break, and the studio definitely wanted it to be ready for the summer. But apparently, since they had around 1,000 people that had to get murdered in the water, they had to wait for the right temperature for the water, for the weather, for everything. Then shooting took place, properly for real this time, in May 2009. And the water was even dyed red for the shooting. And an estimated 80,000 gallons of fake blood was used. Yeah. And after the film was shot and marketed, Piranha 3D would go on to be theatrically released into the United States into theaters around August 30th, 2010 by Dimension Films. Or August 20th, or 20th or 30th, one of those. When it came to the reactions from critics, it got positive reviews from critics, but mixed reactions from audiences. It grossed decently enough $83 million worldwide on a $24 million budget. Then in 2012, it got a horrendous sequel, which was called Piranha Double Dicks, or Piranha Double D, or Piranha 3 Double D, that released into 2012, and obviously was a failure. Now moving on to this, we don't need to talk about that shit. As for my reaction to this movie, Piranha 3D, now let's summarize Alexander Rao as a director. I don't mind Alexander Rao as a director. I'm not the biggest fan of High Tension because of that stupid twist ending. However, I do adore his 2006 remake of The Hills Have Eyes, and I prefer it over the not that great original movie. Not only is The Hills Have Eyes remake one of my favorite horror remakes of all time, it's also one of my favorite horror movies ever made, period. Hills Have Eyes, 2006, definitely one of the best 2000s horror films. Then in 2008, he did a ghost horror film called Mirrors, which I decently enjoyed, but I don't find it great by much means like The Hills Have Eyes was. I love the gnarly death scenes, concept of the reflection in your mirror killing you, giving you a horrific death, and setting of the film. And I did like some of the characters. I like that nobody was obnoxious in the movie. I like nobody was this drunk idiot for once. But I feel like once the nun who was possessed as a kid enters the picture, once the nun enters the picture, it really just kind of goes a bit downhill from there. And I also hate the ending of Mirrors because, spoiler alert guys, I like Kiefer Sutherland's character in that film. I don't think he should have had a shitty ending. That's my problem with Mirrors. Yeah, it's a horror movie. Not every time horror movies can have a happy ending, but Kiefer's character in that movie should have had a happy ending. He should have went back. He should have survived. He should have went back to his family. Would have been a better ending. And then, of course, after Mirrors, this movie came. And it got better reviews from critics than his other stuff, but definitely not so with audiences. I mean, it made some funny money at the box office, but after its run in theaters, it just disappeared and nobody really seemed to care about its existence. Now for me. Anyway, on to me now. I think Piranha 3D, it's alright. I'm not a fan of this one for a lot of good reasons. There's good things about it, but there's things that really just infuriate me when I watch this film, and they just turn me off from even enjoying this film. Like, we'll get to that stuff in a bit. The sheer shame of this is that maybe there's this decently good film somewhere in here, and at some point though, but Then again, we know this was made at the Weinstein Company. Dimension Films is kind of the Weinstein Company at the time this movie came out. So I could bet that a lot of the bad stuff in this movie was probably all the Weinsteins. The actors and actresses like Dina Meyer are underused in this movie and were cast strictly to have name actors attached to the film. And Elizabeth Shue is obviously capable of better productions than this. Like, this movie, there was potential and some moments and elements which were appreciated, but it's just another generic teens in peril during spring break horror schlock fest. And it doesn't even feel like it would be done by Alexander Raha. It looks like a film that would be done by Eli Roth. The main strength of the film, though, is that it doesn't take itself too seriously, but not to a point where it's making fun of itself. It's technically an exploitation flick and it has fun with it. It's essentially a group of thirds. 1/3 of the film is basically a softcore porno, masked by the film's other 2/3. That's a ridiculously fun and over-the-top Hollywood bloodfest. And it uses a lot of standard B-horror movie cliches and seizes every opportunity to place as much tasteless nudity into the film as humanly possible. And the story may be a little odd at times, but it sure is fun as a story. And no, I have not seen the original version by Joe Dante, so don't ask me about the Joe Dante movie. This movie, it's a rather cheesy movie. Sometimes a bit of a cheese can be a good thing. I do enjoy cheesy flicks, so to a point, I enjoyed some bits of this film. There's good gore in it. It's a mindless movie where you shock your brain and enjoy an hour and a half distraction. And it was a modest hit at the box office. It did make back its budget, but it's definitely not a super hit enough to somehow apparently get a sequel. And a bad sequel. A story of this movie, yeah, it has an earthquake, and unleashes an underwater cave where there are apparently thousands upon thousands of flesh-eating piranha reciting that apparently went extinct, and they're now back into the world. I want to think of these fish were living in an isolated cavern where food is not plentiful. They would evolve in eating less food, but then again, it's mindless fun because they come out hungry and they're victims. They're victims of this movie. They're these annoying teen spring breakers. So you'll get to enjoy watching them get killed by the piranhas. And you have a teen whose mom's the sheriff of the town. He sneaks out of babysitting duty to go with this guy who's shooting a Girls Gone Wild type video in the middle of the water. And then we meet a few other people as well before the fish go on their kill spree. It has the same basic premise as most films of this genre of horror, like especially Jaws. There's this threat in the water that occurs during this big event that's supposed to draw in all the crowds. It draws a lot of visitors in the water. There's people who know what's going on before everyone else even recognizes it, and who recognizes the potential difficulty of trying to stop a profitable event. And proverbial shit has hit the fan before direct action can even be taken. You know the deal. It's definitely not a big budget movie, but it's not a low budget movie either, because it had a budget of like $24 million. And it had lots of water stunt work, a lot of computer effects, a lot of makeup effects, a lot of extras, and several expensive actors. Its budget was easily the low end of medium. And with this movie, it is clear that Elizabeth Shue, Vin Rames, Christopher Lloyd, Jerry O'Connell have a sense of humor because, well, while most of these guys are always in great films, they do go back to do something they would if they were just staring out. And this time they went back for the love of the genre and felt they could bring something to the table with Piranha 3D. And you can tell by the poster it's an all-out satire and comical parody of Spielberg's timeless classic Jaws. Piranha 3D does some things right. I mean, it does have the gimmicky, overused, and unnecessary stamp at the end of the title to most likely leech onto more money. And then again, thanks to shitty stuff like Avatar, 3D was so popular, so they needed to have a 3D movie with this. And then so people don't get confused because it was already remade before. Yeah, it's a remake of an original. The original film titled Piranha was released in 1978, and once 1978 by Joe Dante, then that movie got a sequel, which, speaking of Avatar earlier, was also done by James Cameron, and he disowned it. It was his first movie he did before The Terminator. No one liked it. That's all I know about the sequels. James Cameron did the sequel. Everyone hated it. He disowned it. The end. No one cares for its existence. And then in 1995, there was another remake, and that also failed to do much. At all. And then, of course, a third remake was this, Piranha 3D. It doesn't necessarily fail as an attempt at a satire, but the CGI just kills most of the death scenes. It's bloody like one would expect, but the fact that most of the death scenes are dominated by CGI fake flesh and poorly crafted CGI piranhas, it's pitiful. The CGI just looks worse than the Final Destination 3D, which was literally also released during the last time of August, and a 3D horror movie too. The only reason the CGI is here because they wanted the movie to be in 3D and they wanted the 3D to look realistic. But it didn't matter because they got rid of the 3D aspect when it hit the DVD sales. The 3D was gone. So it doesn't matter. Then again, the same year, the final Saw movie was in 3D, and then they got rid of the 3D stuff when it hit DVD, and so they still had the shitty pink blood in it. Some scenes do go beyond plausibility and could never happen in the first place. Like, there's one scene where a character falls in the water, is pulled out, only have both legs showing muscle tissue, blood, and no skin in sight. The character is still even speaking, and winds up lasting another 5 minutes before finally dying. It's definitely an anomaly of a horror genre. And of course, although on good side of things with this movie also, not just the gore, but Christopher Lloyd does make an appearance in this movie, and I don't think a lot of people saw much of him in live action wise around the 2000s, and we don't really see him in live action stuff anymore. He's kind of retired, but it was nice to see Christopher Lloyd on the screen, though. Although it's like only 2 scenes and that's it. And even this performance here, like this performance literally felt like Doc Brown from Back to the Future here. If Doc Brown was in a gory horror film, he didn't really give the part variation. It's kind of like, and no, the problem is though, Christopher Lloyd's in the movie for 2 scenes. His character should have played more of a role. In fact, the stars like Vin Rames, Elizabeth Shue, Adam Scott, these guys should have been the main characters instead of the dumbass teens and Jerry O'Connell's annoying as fuck character, who I'll also get to later. The piranha aspect, when it comes to the piranha aspect is one of the highlights of the films, and they do make credible antagonists. And the attack scenes are somewhat effective and definitely like really, really gory. Some do have humor, and some are played for straight up horror. The funniest piranha attacks are definitely O'Connell's death, and the loss of his, dick. And it makes for one of the most amusing, unexpected scenes in the picture. Oh, and another death scene. There is one funny death scene in the movie that's not from a piranha attack per se, but it's during the whole infamous massacre scene. And that one, it's Eli Roth's death. Yes, I mentioned Eli Roth because Eli Roth surprisingly plays a cameo in this movie where he's one of the Spring Breakers and he's spraying the girls' titties and he's spraying their asses. Then then we have the whole piranha attack, and he's like trying to climb onto the boat, and the girl grabs him like, it's slipping. He's like, it's slipping, you whore. And I'm just like, just climb up the boat, you fucking idiots. Like, and when he sees a boat, he doesn't try to just scramble out quick. He literally just stares at the boat screaming like an idiot, and his head just gets crushed into the boat. It's like, ah! Like, just, oh my god, like, are you this stupid? Climb up the fucking boat. Don't make a girl grab you, just climb up the fucking boat. This death could have been so avoidable. But no, because he decides to scream at the boat like an idiot, and he just dies. What a moron. And the special effects of this movie, they're pretty good when you're not dealing with CGI piranhas. The gore's definitely solid makeup, and it's definitely proper red blood. It's not like the Saw 3D pink blood, so that was that. But the odd instance of CGI computer work does look fine at times. The piranha themselves look fearsome when they're not CGI attacking. And for gore-wise, people have their legs bitten off, their limbs are chewed down to the bone, a woman has a piranha eat through her head and face, Jerry O'Connell's dick is bitten off, even before being barfed back up. There's gallons of blood in this movie. A girl even gets sliced in half by a wire. A girl gets her hair caught in a boat propeller by this selfish coward bully in the movie. And then she gets scalped as the war starts when he's trying to save his own ass. So if you're a gorehound, you'll find a lot of things here to like. And fans of nudity will also find some things to like because there's a lot of it shown. In this, there's even a surreal moment where two naked porn actresses follow each other underwater to the tune of this classical music. As a side note, and then again, this is from director Alexander Aja, who has done graphic horror films. High Tension, The Hills of Eyes remake, and of course, and apparently Mirrors is supposed to be a J-horror remake, although Aja claims it's not. I don't think it really is, because I don't think anybody even remembers the original Mirrors. Mirrors is a Japanese horror film, so I don't think anybody really even remembers the original's existence anyway. So I don't think it should be called a remake. And then you have Piranha, and then you have this one. It's also a remake. It's a third remake. But it has the 3D slapped onto it. I mean, like, and the thing is, though, since it's graphic and gory, this movie also does not lie. When it says it's a graphic, gory movie, it does not lie about it. It definitely does not lie like Machete did with its trailer, saying, Machete is going to be this epic grindhouse movie by Robert Rodriguez. Then it came out literally not too long after this, and it was fucking not. It was just a politics PSA about Mexico and the border that just wishes it was an epic, gory grindhouse film. It wasn't. Even Piranha 3, may not be a fan of Piranha 3D, even this movie wasn't a lie. Even they didn't lie about any of the goriness. It helps that the screenplay is even gleefully impotent, because when you have screenwriters Pete Goldfinger, Josh Stolberg, they know exactly how bonkers the premise is, and they have a blast milking it for all it's worth. And even features a pair of fan-pleasing cameos. Richard Dreyfuss is in the beginning of the film, and it's definitely a good sport in his pre-title scene, and plenty of winks and nods to other fishy horrors, and it's hard to wipe a grin off any Goron's face during these moments. And you throw in a few additional crazy things like naked, hot female porno stars underwater, to the classic flower duet song, which seems a little weird. And since not a lot can be said about the plot because it's kind of the typical plot of every one of these kind of movies. The acting of the dialogue is just a lake, lots of speedboats and teenagers, wet t-shirt competition, with a cameo from Eli Roth, an errant babysitter's charges, trapped on a sinking boat, because the babysitter just wanted to just go look at boobies instead of actually watch his own siblings and get them all into this mess. Now, for one scene of the movie, there is one scene that makes this movie worth a watch, and that's the Spring Break Massacre. I think just everybody would agree this scene is the best scene of the whole film, and it's the most watchable scene in the movie. How this scene goes is, when Vin Rames' character, Vin Rames plays one of the cops, and so Vin Rames and Elizabeth Shue, after learning more about this piranha from Christopher Lloyd, they get back to the lake to try to shut down the whole festival. And Vin Rames literally tries to warn the obnoxious Spring Breakers when they're literally just talking about, yeah, show those asses and show those boobies like Willy Wonka on the Chocolate Factory. That's what Eli Roth character says. Dude, why the fuck would you mention... Dude, don't mention Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in this movie, please. And don't compare that to boobies and asses, please. But now back to this. Vin Rames and Elizabeth Shue, they're trying to get the people to leave, turn their boats around, get out of the water. Vin Rames even tries firing his pistol, and they do shut up finally, once they hear the pistol for a little bit. And they're just frozen in silence, and Vin Rames does take a bit of a while to do the warning. He's like, dude, you got their attention. Just warn them already and don't pause. Just warn them. Dude, why are you stuttering about warning them? Just warn them and get to the points. But, of course, none of the Spring Breakers listen. They all jump into the water. I mean, which, to be fair, yeah. Then again, Vin Rames did kind of pause for a little while to warn them, so he should have just got to the point and maybe they would have listened. Not, freeze for a few minutes. But, of course, although, to be honest, guys, if I was one of these Spring Breakers, and Vin Rames fired a pistol and warned idiots like me to get out of the water, you want to know what I'm doing? I'm taking my speeding boat, I'm taking my boat, and I'm going back to the dock, or back to land, quick. I'm doing that. And they'd be like, where the fuck are you going? And I'd be noticing something obviously in the water. It's like, there's something clearly in the water, or maybe this guy's a point. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Bye! I'd get the fuck out of there. I don't care if I'd miss a party. I'd be getting the fuck out of there if that's a clear warning about something. Once the spring breakers are in the water, a piranha bites this woman's ass. And then and that's where the whole massacre happens and everything pretty much goes to shit. And the spring breakers, there's a whole montage of spring breakers in the water. They're getting mauled, they're getting eaten by the piranhas brutally. Fish swarm and attack the crowd. They bite the injured people as they swim through the water trying to get to their boats. Blood fills the water. Countless people get injured in the whole 13-minute sequence. Bodies are even being pulled out of the water, and people are even screaming incessantly. Injured people are pulled onto boats. Missing limbs are even seen in large numbers of people, and blood-covered helpers attempt to pull them to safety. And blood-covered cops even. Some more other gory stuff here, like this electric cord whips through the air, it cuts a woman in half, her bikini top falls off, and her body falls in the water for in 2 parts, and a second woman is even seen being cut by the whipping wire, and male genitalia is seen floating in the water. One coward asshole bully guy that was bullying one of the main kids in the film, he tries to ditch their asses to get to land quicker than them. He sliced a bunch of people with the propeller. Then a young woman's hair gets caught in the same propeller of the same boat. The driver of the boat doesn't give a shit. He gives full throttle to the engine, and the propeller spins and it pulls her hair so violently that the action just scalps her head off and rips off all her skin from her face from her nose up. And she goes into shock and stops screaming and drowns and dies. And then a bunch of other people tip over the boat, and then that bully gets his karmic death and he dies. Then you have Eli Roth's cameo's head, having the most avoidable death of the massacre, where instead of just expecting one of the women to just pull him up, he should just use his strength to climb up the fucking boat, grab the rail, climb up, and don't just lay in the water staring at the boat coming towards her head and screaming like an idiot. That's like a lot of horror movies' deaths. Don't scream at it. How about use your fucking strength and don't be a dumbass. Yeah, and that's not all, guys. There's like one really realistic, grisly moments right here where 2 men are actually carrying a teenage girl with severe injuries, and they accidentally tear her in half, and we even hear the sound effects, and she dies. One cop is being carried out of the water with half a leg bitten off, and we see the actual bone, the actual skeleton bone foot. And of course, you got one likable character moment right here, where Vin Rames is shooting at the piranhas. Instead, he decides to pick up the boat motor, and he decides to sacrifice his own life by lifting the boat motor from a boat, and he uses it to chop up the fish completely, but then they surround him and they eat him. And then he dies, but apparently, I heard some weird reason, in the sequel, he comes back for some weird reason. Apparently, he somehow survived the attack, and now has to have shotgun legs because the sequel also wants to go rip off Planet Terror because they think they're Planet Terror now, even though they're not. Even Planet Terror is better than both these movies. The film has great gore, and Alexander Raja knows how to do gory stuff. And now, I'll admit, not everybody's unlikable. Not everybody. There are some characters I liked. For one instance, besides Vin Rames' character I also liked Adam Scott's character. Yes, Adam Scott's in this movie. He's actually one of the people that's actually working with the cops. Like, I don't know why couldn't this movie just be about Adam Scott and Vin Rames' characters? Say, like, it's about, like, Adam Scott's character moves into town. He's being, like, and his first assignment is he has to pretty much help the cops, like, watch over the spring break thing. And then and then the piranha attack is then heard, and he pretty much now has to team up with Vin Rames and other cop staff to stop the piranha attack. And the 2 characters have to team up and destroy the piranhas. That's what my version would have been. If I directed this movie, that's exactly what my version of this movie would have been about. Have Vin Rames be the lead cop. He recruits Adam Scott's character. The 2 have to stop the piranha massacre in the lake. That would have been a better movie. Would be a way better movie. I would have definitely loved that. than being about two idiot teens the whole film that you don't give a fuck about. Because this movie, guys, isn't even about Elizabeth Shue's character or Vin Rame's character or Ram Scott's characters at all. You know what it's about? Two dumbass fucking teenagers. You don't give a fuck about. The main team's mom, which is Elizabeth Shue's character, she's the sheriff of the town, and she assigns her son, one of the teenagers, to babysit his two younger siblings. But he's all like, no, fuck that, I want to go see boobies and go see people fucking girls. Although he does tell them, if I give you the babysitting money, you're not to go on the lake, you're not to leave the house, you're not to answer the door or the phone, and you're supposed to stay inside the house. But even these two kids are stupid. His younger siblings are also really stupid because one of them's like, but I don't care what our brother says, I want to go fishing. So they do that, and guess what, guys? Their asses get stranded. So yeah. So now the oldest sibling has to go. So this oldest sibling goes to travel the lake with this scammy porn director that's played by Jerry O'Connell. And of course, and his crush also joins the two of them and decide to follow them onto the boats. And predictable results happen. Right there. Now, since I'm already getting to rant territory, we're going to do the bad qualities. And there are good reasons why I'm not a big fan of this movie like some people really, really are. First off, half of the movie is literally, yeah, there's gore, but half the movie, first half is titties, asses, sex, bikinis, and porn. There's even one weird as fuck scene about the two females, two porn actresses, they're swimming underwater nude while this weird artsy music plays in the background as if there's some little art, as if they're creating an art house masterpiece with this scene. Then I mentioned Eli Roth's cameo, he's spraying girls' asses with water and referencing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And there's just lots of unpleasant scenes and just unpleasant characters that are either perverted, scummy, douchebags, just gross, nasty people you want to die and you don't give a fuck about. Jerry O'Connell's character is so fucking annoying as shit in this movie, and you already want his ass to die in this movie as soon as he's introduced. And the four kids this movie focuses on and thinks that we're supposed to root for, they're stupid like I've already said. They make the dumbest choices. They go with the two oldest ones, go with the porn director onto the lake. Ditch babysitting duty. The two youngest ones that are getting babysat, they go fishing, and they get stranded, and they have to be saved. Because they couldn't listen to their brother's instructions for just a moment. And besides, why would they even go on the lake anyway? I don't think kids their age should be going on a lake when there's a spring break party, when almost everybody in their area is going to be doing gross stuff on the lake. So that'd be an obvious sign to never be near the lake in the first place. Like, even the mom says she doesn't want them near the water. When she's calling to check on the oldest son that ditched his duty to go do the porn stuff. And the CGI in this movie, it is really abysmal. Like, I don't care if they didn't want this to be known as a third remake. This movie did not need to be in 3D at all. This film should have just stayed in normal 2D so that the fish could look realistic. It's like, no, because that shitty movie Avatar was so successful, this needs to be in 3D badly, because during the year this was released, 3D was so popular thanks to Avatar, so they wanted that gimmick so they could make more money, but it didn't matter because it didn't even make that huge of a profit regardless. And 3D movies, they don't work. 3D horror movies, I mean. 3D horror movies do not work. Look at Saw 3D. Look at the Ghost Dimension. I don't know what didn't kill them to get it through their head. 3D horror movies do not work. Okay? On the bright side, though, at least At least unlike Saw 3D, the 3D wasn't thrown in at the last minute. So there is that. And the finale of this movie, usually sometimes there'll be a good finale in films like this. Not here. I think the finale of this movie sucks ass. Because in it, the oldest brother spots his two siblings on the island, and he forces the scummy porn guy to rescue them. The scummy porn guy accidentally crashes the boat in fury into some submerged rocks in the process, and floods the lower deck and causes the boat to begin sinking. And now the brother's crush is trapped in the galley, while the scummy porn guy and one of the porn actresses and his cameraman, they fall overboard. The cameraman escapes to the shore, but one of the actresses is devoured, and the porn director is badly wounded and gets his dick bitten off. And then, of course, another one of the porn actresses manages to get the porn director back on board, and the porn director dies. Then Adam Scott and Elizabeth Shue's characters reach the oldest brother on a speedboat, and he attach a rope to his boat. And then, of course, Elizabeth Shue's character, one of the porn actresses, and the two siblings, they start crossing the rope, but the piranhas latch onto the remaining porn actress's hair, and she falls in the water and dies. The others make it across safely, though, but the rope comes loose. So the oldest brother decides to tie the line to himself and goes to save Kelly, his crush, that's his crush's name, and uses the porn director's corpse to distract the piranhas. They then tie each other to themselves, and they light a flare to release the gas from the stored propane tanks, and Adam Scott's character speeds the boat away just as the piranhas surround the two teens, and they're dragged to safety as the propane tanks explode, and it kills the piranhas. So, okay, right here, that wasn't bad. Maybe this was a fine part to end the movie here, right? The piranhas are all defeated. There's that. But, no, the movie's not. We need to have a pretentious downer ending. So, once they make it to safety, and before the oldest brother can obviously be grounded, which should have happened, even though he did technically try to kind of make up for his mistake, he still should have gotten grounded for ignoring warnings. Still should have gotten some kind of punishment. Christopher Lloyd's character then calls Elizabeth Shue's character, and she tells him they killed most of the piranhas, but Christopher Lloyd tells her that the glands of the piranha they obtained, that's not the mature one, and it turns out the piranhas they actually killed were the babies. So then Adam Scott wonders where the parents are, and then of course, guess what, guys? A human-sized adult piranha just leaps out of the water and kills Adam Scott's character. And I'm not kidding, guys. That's how the movie fucking ends. That's it. It just ends like that. No happy ending. No resolution. No return home. It's just, literally just ends with an utter fuck you by killing Adam Scott's character. It's like this movie's pretty much like, huh, guess what? You know this character you all liked? Guess what? His ass dies to end our movie. We ran out of money to make the move, to continue this movie, so let's just end it here. Fuck you, and fuck you $20. We're gonna steal that from you, and we're gonna take it back to our studio. Thanks for giving the money. Have fun leaving the theater pissed off. Bye! Have fun screaming and swearing that night that you just wasted $20 on this. Yeah. And guess what, guys? It doesn't matter, because apparently, yeah, there was a sequel, but the sequel was not only atrocious, and somehow brings back Vin Rame's character despite that he died, for some weird reason, and pretty much has him doing nothing. The sequel doesn't even continue from this cliffhanger ending, so guess what? Nothing in the first even gets resolved, and that's it. And let's give Vin Rame's shotgun legs, because we think we're Planet Terror, even though we're not. For the next movie. I don't know if I even want to review the next movie, but honestly, I'm sure I'm probably going to have to one day if I'm reviewing this. All in all, after getting to rant territory, Piranha 3D, it's not a terrible film, but it's definitely not a good movie either. And honestly, this was kind of the beginning of Alexander Aja's decline as a director with this movie. In the end, Piranha 3D, It's a stream online for gorehounds who want to see the massacre scene and some gory piranha kills, but don't expect something great here at all. Don't expect another Hills That Vies because you're not going to get a Hills That Vies here. Anyways, that's it for my review of Piranha 3D, and if you're wondering how I'm going to rate Piranha 3D, here's how I'm going to rate this movie. So overall, if you guys like gory killer fish movies and want to see one with a gory beach massacre, then totally stream this one online, because except for that one scene, you just get nothing but porn and titties, and that's going to be it. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rate Piranha 3D, I'm going to give Piranha 3D a 5.5 out of 10. There we go! That wraps up my review for Piranha 3D, so you're wondering, what's going to be the next episode? Well, our next episode is going to be going back into the 80s, and it's going to be an anthology horror film. And you all remember, I reviewed an anthology horror film earlier this year from the 80s, and it was done by George A. Romero, and it was called Creepshow. The next episode, we're going to be reviewing the second Creepshow movie, the lesser known one, but an alright sequel, nonetheless. So yeah, Creepshow 2 is going to be the next episode. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this review or episode. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, and if you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.